Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be my final Cyrene video for the early access server. Everything else I'm going to take it a little bit like the anomaly arbitration, maybe the 3.7 relics, but that's going to be very, very short, as well as the brand new currency, currency wars upcoming the next update. So this is the last one. Then for the upcoming future videos, live server, I'm going to be testing out even more things. So this is going to be the final installment where we're going to be talking about every single possible zero cycle that I managed to get with Cyrene, with everything going to be done in easy. So without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so this is going to be our very first zero cycle, and that is going to be with our Castorice, Evernight, Hyacinth, Cyrene. I believe everybody here, all of the cards will be shown towards the end of the round. Basically, this one, I believe it was all full E0. I think it was E0 as well, so let's just take a look at it over here. I think for this particular run, you're going to be finding yourself the easiest to get a zero cycle compared to anything else. In fact, I think this was also probably like one of our lowest cost investments. Once again, like I mentioned, the relics for this early access is not going to be super min-max, so if you want to make this a little bit of a better performance, save a couple of costs here and there, I think that's going to be completely fine and valid as well. So for the overall rotation for running a Cyrene on a zero cycle Castorice team with Evernight and Hyacinth, it is pretty straightforward because you want to try and save up the Cyrene mechanics for your ultimate to be used up in the next wave. And I kind of want to pause this video here. Now, I know there's a couple of sentiments where Cyrene is really bad, especially for the fast killers, but ironically or unironically, if you're able to somehow deal enough damage for the first wave before you use your Cyrene's ultimate, then I would say that this kit is super good for zero cycles. In this case, for example, in the Castorice team, where you can essentially save up your Cyrene ultimate all the way until the very last action, and you can just use everything into the next action, which can grant us like a lot more firepower against the boss wave or wave 2 itself. So I think this was just very interesting. Of course, not every single team is going to be able to do this, because at the end of the day, some teams really need Cyrene's ultimate to even get a zero cycle because they just don't do enough damage. But for other times, if you can actually do enough damage, for example, this current team over here, then Cyrene is going to be an absolutely insane upgrade, especially from a zero cycle perspective, right? So let's just jump back into the game itself. I think everything else is going to be super straightforward. You're going to be playing this exactly how you would play the Castorice team from back in those days, where you're going to be activating your ultimate, right? Getting your ultimate as fast as possible, and then from now all the way until the very last action, what you want to do is essentially stop. You want to stall out as long as possible all the way until Castorice's very last action at 80 value. You can see over there. Then we can cast our Cyrene ultimate, and ideally, if you're going to be already dealing enough damage, you don't even want to use the Cyrene ultimate over here, just to try and let me see if you can actually get the clear before you activate the Cyrene. So you can see over here. Right, so we still have Evernight, Castorice, Cyrene, as well as Hyacinth here, and the Ascender is already gonna be at, I believe, the last 10% HP. Right, so we're gonna activate our Jellyfish. So she is already pretty much almost dead. So the moment you let go of this hit, you kind of want to just save everything right here, because I know for a fact she's done so, right? So you just save everything. You save Castorice, save Evernight, save everything, and then now you can instantly activate all of your ultimates into wave 2 for an incredibly fast burst DPS, at least for this E0 Castorice team command. So we're gonna first let go of Pollux, then we're gonna let go of our Evernight. So we're going to be summoning a little bit more of a Jellyfish without the Res Pen to deal a little bit more damage. Then we let go of our first Dragon Blast over here. Right? Then the moment we let go of our Dragon Blast, we instantly activate our Cyrene ultimate to full refresh everybody's ultimate at this current point of time. So we activate this. The order for Castorice first or Evernight first, it doesn't really matter. Just depends on what you want. So I went for the Castorice, followed by the Evernight. So we're going to be buffing both Castorice and Evernight. So at this point forward, it depends on the environment. So sometimes you want to use Cyrene's actual basic if you're going to be using an ultimate. Sometimes you want to just funnel energy into Hyacinth, depending if she does have enough energy to cast one more additional ultimate. That's going to give us a lot of value for Castorice over here, right? So first things first, we're going to activate our Hyacinth ultimate first, because our Jellyfish is on the field, which gives us the maximum amount of healing value. So you can see from 107 we go up all the way up to 143, which is very nice. Then we activate our skill again, which is going to give us even bigger burst over here, and I'm intentionally saving this for as close to 200% as possible, because you can see Flame Reaver is going to be the only target here before he summons his clone, right? So similar to like the Firefly Salmon showcase that I showed in the previous video, if you want to use the highest possible damage for Castorice against a single target, the 200% multiplier is going to be dealing a lot more compared to summoning opponents as fast as possible, right? So at this point, I'm just going to be activating the normal skills, get in our Evernight out over here, then just try to get as close to 200%. So once the Jellyfish, you can see, I'm going to activate this because I know for a fact the moment this is done, it's either he summons and I don't get a 200%, I lose out 40%, or I just let it go right now before he summons the mobs, which if he summons the mobs, you're going to be losing a lot of value, because your 200% multiplier is going to be just split all over the place, right? So luckily for us, we did hit that 200% in this particular point, so we're going to be letting go of the maximum value of Castorice products against a single target. So just slam all in, break this guy for a single target with 80%, sorry, with 80% of the armor, or 1.5 million, last 90% HP, absolutely insane. So now we're going to be just dealing as much damage as possible before we get to the next phase. So he's not gonna die over here with last 9% HP. So we're gonna let him summon the mobs. At this point, we're just gonna activate our Castorice ultimate because I know for a fact this Castorice ultimate will definitely kill the minions. But if I were to use my Cyrene ultimate here with a basic, there's a chance that we might not kill the minions from the Flame Weaver. So I just want to play it safe a little bit. So we activate the ultimate. This is honestly a little bit overkill because we are definitely gonna be clearing off the minions here. Then you'll instantly go into the next cycle. So you can see we are pretty much just there with 4 more actions. Hyacinth, Cyrene, Evernight, as well as Castorice. So we need to be very, very conservative with our energy. So I know for a fact that it is pretty much impossible for me to get 2 dragons at the same time in this time frame. So I just want to ideally do as much damage as humanly possible before we actually end on this 0 cycle. So first things first, I'm going to activate my Hyacinth heals. Just see if I have enough ultimate. So we do get the ultimate right here, which is why you see I don't usually activate my Cyrene ultimate before I absolutely have to, because I want to look at the situations. Do I need to activate my skill for the Hyacinth, or do I want to activate my skill for my own personal damage? Right? So I can see over here, 694k. We definitely have enough for Hyacinth ultimate, so we're just going to be going for the basic here. I'm trying to store as much as possible, ideally waiting for the Castorice Dragon to be summoned. So during the Castorice Dragon summon, your Cyrene actually just do a little bit more damage because of the red spam field, right? So we're going to activate Hyacinth's ultimate right now after we summon the Jellyfish for the highest possible amount of stacks for Castorice. Then Evernight is going to go in. So now it's just pretty much going to be single target. You're just going to try to save up as many of these stacks as possible. 159. Activate. Okay, honestly at this point, I think I made a mistake because I see myself having 27 stacks, but honestly there was no way I could have gotten to essentially 36 stacks, so I could have just waited a little bit more to summon Castorice. So this was a little bit of a misplay. I pressed my ultimate a little bit too early because I was thinking to myself, okay, I don't want to waste any of the stacks, but it doesn't matter because there was no way you get out of the 36 anyway at this particular point. So I went for a little bit more of a basic, but you can see it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So we went for the heal. This is going to be as close to 200% as possible, right? This is going to be one of the final ones. Goes for the basic, activates my Castorice ultimate. So at this point, after you activate Castorice ultimate, that's when you want to activate Cyrene's ultimate right here so that she can do a little bit more damage, right? Unfortunately, I basically pressed the wrong button and let go of Porax right here, which means I cannot activate my Cyrene's ultimate in this field. So we're going to be losing a little bit more damage because Porax is going to die over here. But you can see it actually does not matter because the last final bit of HP, we basically just one-shot bro at 1.8 million running a full E0 team. So even though I was playing it super conservatively, you can see that this 0 cycle was honestly very comfortable running this current team over here, right? So this is going to be the setup over here, right? We can just ignore this. Okay, so you can see that this is going to be the setup, and you can see our relics that we have been using is like really mid, because I basically just use the auto equip function from the C server, just change a couple of main sites here and there, and I just went ahead with the 0 cycle, right? So this is gonna be our Castorice E0 as 1, then that's gonna be our Evernight E0 as 1, 129 speed with a little bit more of a speed over there, and then Hyacinth with the 201 speed, also can go a lot higher E0 as 1, and then Cyrene going with the E0 as 1. This gears over here, honestly, you should just change it to the 4-piece, the 4th piece set from Evernight, just to do a little bit more damage, because frankly speaking, you didn't even really need the additional stack for Cyrene in the first action anyways, because once you cast your ultimate, you do get yourself the speed buff. So getting 200 speed on the Castorice turn is not going to be absolute must, because your team definitely generates enough stacks for you to go into the next wave anyways. So this could have been a lot more damage by running the Evernight 4-piece, but that is going to be our very first 0 cycle featuring the Castorice full E0 as 1, the easiest to do team for Cyrene. Now for this showcase, we are going to be running it with the E1 tribute with S5DD as well as the E1 S1 Aglaea. So we do have one more additional island just to get ourselves the 0 cycle for this showcase. I first want to keep in mind once again before you guys is that, oh my god, use cost. This is not about cost saving, right? I'm not claiming to be using the lowest cost possible, especially because I'm not even min-maxing my relics, but just to kind of show you guys what to expect if you're going to be going for the 0 cycle. If you don't really care about 0 cycle, you can even see that Cyrene is still going to be doing a lot of damage from all of our previous showcase from this 0. So this is particularly just for your 0 cycle needs for your Mr. Streamer, right? So we're gonna come again. Our rotation over here for Aglaea as well with the sustainless is to essentially try to stall out our damage, similar to how we stall our damage with Castorice. Pretty much you're going to be seeing this for every single team. You want to try and stall out Cyrene's ultimate as long as you can to ideally hold this on into the next wave. Now for this particular build, you did notice that my Cypher is going to be a lot tankier. Your Cypher does not need to deal any damage. So if you find yourself a little bit of an issue running a sustainless run, just build a tank Cypher. I just ran both like as much HP as possible to make this 0 cycle a lot easier. Even though if you give DPS Cypher is going to deal more damage, I personally don't think it's worth it all of the reset, so I just went for a tankier Cypher build. So at this point, we're just going to be getting our Garment Maker extra turn. Ideally, just use it immediately because you can see from the action value, we are going to be at, I believe this is going to be 49. So you are not really going to be saving that much more action value from this anyways, because Aglaea is just that fast to begin with. So we're going to instantly activate our ultimate, activate our joint attack, And our Trivia E1 view is really going to be up over here. And we do get the War Armor Break from Aglaea, which is going to be very, very important. Ideally, you always want to give the War Armor Break to Aglaea, which is going to be the one that requires the highest amount of energy out of this entire team, right? So that's pretty much going to be it. Cyrene activating our skill again, so her entire role for pretty much every single fight in every single Castorice team is just going to be spamming her skill, right? Spam her skill, all around you get the ultimate. So at this point, we're just going to be going for the Saki, get a bit of a weaken so they're dealing less damage to us. Then we're going to be aiming for the Ascender over here, which is going to be dealing a pretty sizable amount. That's 500,000. Very nice. Then we're going to activate our Tribi ultimate, pushing up our Cyrene a little bit higher, which gives us the additional action for Cypher, Garment Maker, as well as Aglaea, which means we're definitely going to be able to clear in this cycle. But at this point, I think I just want to play it safe, because if I waited for the Ascender to hit me, we're going to be losing a lot of HP, which may break our run when we eventually get to Flame Weaver. So I decided to play it safe and just activate Cyrene's ultimate instant here. But if you want to greed for a little bit more damage and save this ultimate for the Flame Weaver, I think that's 100% viable as well. But it kind of just depends on the way you play and as well as the risk you're going to be taking, right? So that's going to be Cyrene. Activate ultimate instantly. So we always activate on Cypher. Right, you always say it on Cypher, because the Cypher's effect, like I mentioned in the first guide, it is very, very nice. It's just that she's not too good, especially for sustain with any of our version 3. But if we're going to be running a sustainers run, Cypher's honestly super, super nice over here, right? So now that we do get ourselves the Cyrene ultimate, gets a lot more damage, 281k, activating our DDD, which pulls our Cypher up a little bit higher. So at this point, I was taking a look at the HP. Okay, how much is it? Okay, so he has probably roughly around, so this looks like essentially roughly 10% final HP. So I was thinking to myself, okay, since I already did my Cyrene's ultimate just to prevent myself from taking that much damage, I'm just gonna kill the Ascender one right here. So I went for the, I believe I went for a basic first, then I went for the ultimate. Yep, so once this actually kills, we essentially saved up our damage and we can convert everything to the next wave immediately for the Flame Weaver, right? No, you do not want to activate the Aglaea ultimate too early, because you ideally want to store your Garment Maker until the next cycle anyways, right? So you want to just chill a little bit, because you're not really going to be saving that much action value, considering that Aglaea is just that fast herself, right? So we're going to be activating our ultimate here, then we activating, so join attack into ultimate here. So it will push our Garment Maker all the way down a little bit more, so we have a little bit more breathing room to have enough energy for Aglaea to maintain this Garment Maker Supreme Stance. Even if Aglaea loses the Supreme Stance in the 0 cycle, you can see that it literally just does not matter, because Cyrene is just fully able to build your Aglaea stacks all the way back up again. So it's going to be very, very nice, right? So join attack back in, so that's going to be 459k, down to the last, I believe, 67% HP. So Cyber over here is just going to be continuously doing your skill over here, because you don't really need to consume any skill point remaining. Just beware to save that one skill point for Tribi before Tribi's buff is met, right? So you can see over here, we are taking a very, very substantial amount of damage. So if we actually let the Ascender one hit us just now, this round would have been over, right? So you want to balance out your risk, your greed, between actually surviving the run in a 0 cycle. So this is going to be very, very important. So now that he actually summoned his goons, we're going to activate our ultimate. Sorry, we're gonna make our joint attack. Cyrene here is just chilling, right? Cyrene is just chilling. We're gonna use our ultimate right here to go for our own enhanced attack to deal as much damage to the Flame Weaver clones as possible, because as long as they die, you're gonna be able to deal a lot more damage to the damage reductions that's falling off. So now we're gonna be seeing 6 stacks of damage reduction remaining. Hopefully, our Aglaea can actually kill this to get us in the next wave. Okay, Tribi is gonna go here. I don't think it's gonna be enough, so we're definitely gonna be making use of our joint attack. So this will definitely get us a kill. 0%, fantastic. He's gonna activate the transformation. We activate our DDD, which is not fast enough to push up all the way up before Flame Weaver, so it is what it is. We're gonna be taking a little bit of hit, and now this is the point, right? Cypher actually died and had to use global passive. So for this particular point, honestly, you can kind of just gamble the RNG a little bit and let the very first wave don't hit Cypher by positioning like a couple of gamble hits from the Ascender for either Cyrene, Garment Maker, or Aglaea, right? But unfortunately, we had to use our global passive here. But if you don't want to use the global passive, just grant RNG a little bit more to ensure that your entire team survives, because if the RNG hit for the first wave, right, this global passive will not even activate in the first wave, so this is going to be completely fine. So we're going to activate our Cyrene ultimate once again, letting go of our burst damage to deal with as much damage for the Flame Weaver clones, so we can get this to as little stacks of damage reduction as possible, right? So big AoE, Aglaea goes in, one more additional hit from our ultimate. So we're gonna be getting one more turn, and that's when our final Cypher ultimate will pretty much be able to get us the clear against Flame Weaver, which is honestly super, super satisfying, right? So we went for the Saki. Honestly, I could have greeted a little bit more, waiting for Garment Maker to hit us, but at this point I was like, okay, you know what? I just want to see it, because I'm pretty sure we get a kill off at the last 23% HP. This should be at least 1 minute. So I went for the Meow Meow hit, and it is going to be more than sufficient to get us the 0 cycle on the dot, 1 government action remaining for our E1 S1 Aglaea, right? The team over here, the Cyrene build and everything else is going to be the exact same, but this is going to be done with a E1 S1 Aglaea. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be very important. If you're going to be running Aglaea with Cyrene, especially because after you take out Sunday, you really want to improve your crit rate to at least, I would say, 90 to 95%. Otherwise, you're going to be missing a lot of damage. But unfortunately, like I mentioned, the relics for this current account for the zero cycle, I didn't authorize it all the way. So this is going to be a lot more crit rate. It's going to be a more preferred, right? So this is E1 S1 Aglaea with E1 S0 Tribi. Our crit is also very low on Tribi. Ideally, you want to make this a lot higher, closer to 68% as possible, but it's going to be that. Then our Cyrene is going to be full-on tank build with as much speed as humanly possible, 4.4k HP with 1.2k defense, and then Cyrene is going to be the exact same that we've seen for our previous zero cycle, right? So that's going to be our Aglaea zero cycle. Now, moving on to the next one is pretty much going to be our Evernight main DPS zero cycle. This time, we are going to be using our E1 Tribi as well, with Evernight, Hyacinth, as well as our Cyrene over here. Now, keep in mind, for this particular main DPS Evernight, this is going to be done with an E1 S1 Evernight, right? So we are not going to be using E0 anymore as compared to the Castorice team. So what is actually happening is that I took away the Castorice cost and I just gave the Evernight so that she is now the main DPS after getting the E1. You can see the amount of damage we're dealing with the E1 Evernight because we're running a double remember, rather triple remembers, is going to be very high, right? So you can see 340,000 from the Toot. We are going to be slamming our ultimate over here, or rather the enhanced skill from yours, right? 403k. Then activating our Evernight ultimate, and all this time I have not even activated my Tribi ultimate yet. So we're not even getting our E1 Tribi damage buff. So it's going to be 469. Getting in our DDD right now. Now we're going to be applying our E1 field, so we're going to be starting to deal way more damage. So the exact same principle for Evernight is going to be done compared to Castorice, where you want to try to stall out your Cyrene ultimate for as long as possible, so you can save it up for the next wave to deal a lot more damage. Right? You can see over here, the entire mob is literally about to die, so I was just trying to stall as long as I can. I was even using my Tribi skills, and I was not even going to be using my Cyrene skill over here. Sorry, I'm not even using my Cyrene skill. I'm just going to go for the basic. And then he's going to go for the cast. I ideally probably should have went for the Cyrene skill just to get a little bit more stacks. But I was thinking to myself, okay, you know what? Save a little bit of skill points so we can fall into Hyacinth. Gets out the kill. And just nice on the dot, we get one more skill. As much energy as I can. Then I slam it into the Knight. Getting us a full kill on wave one. Now, at this point, I do want to say, if you are able to get yourself the Evernight ultimate right here, it is gonna add a lot more damage because you're eventually gonna be refreshing your ultimate with Cyrene's ultimate anyways, right? So we're gonna take a look and see if we have enough energy to get ourselves the Evernight ultimate. I think we just nice hit it with Ika because we're gonna get a follow-up attack, get an Ika. Okay, at this point, I honestly low-key might have just greeted and waited for Hyacinth's turn to begin, activate my skill, get one more ultimate, and then I cast my Cyrene ultimate. So if you want to agree a little bit more to squeeze out one more entire Evernight ultimate, I think it probably would have been worth it. But you can see later on, it doesn't really matter towards the end. So we're just going to take a look at where this is going to take. So unfortunately, losing one Evernight ultimate, but the buff is going to be the exact same. We're going to be buffing Tribi as well as buffing Evernight. So generally speaking, you wouldn't really buff Tribi under normal circumstances, especially if you're going to be using Tribi for someone like Castorice. You're going to be buffing Castorice as well as Evernight. Then you're going to be finding all of the skill points into Cyrene's personal damage stuff. But since we are going to be running a main DPS Evernight and we do have the additional damage from the E1, so we're just going to be going for a little bit more of Tribi's personal damage because it's a one-time permanent buff. So maybe Tribi can start ramping up a lot more. But unfortunately, my Tribi build is just set S, right? I think bro is like 70% crit rate, so it's definitely got a lot to improve. So we went for the double buff for Tribi as well as Evernight. Goes in for the additional hit from Cyrene, 461,000. You can see your personal damage is honestly very exceptional, especially with E1 Evernight. Gets in our ultimate so that we can get a little bit more stacks from the Hyacinth ultimate here. So this is going to be 16 out of 16. Then we're going to activate our own skill one more time. So all this is before Flame Weaver has even taken a single action because we have essentially saved the entire Cyrene ultimate for this entire wave itself, right? So now we're going to slam it for 25 stacks. Last 48% HP. Cyrene goes for the basic over here. Now we're just gonna chill, activate our stacks again. I want to save Cyrene's ultimate after he summons the clones so we can deal with the clones as fast as possible, right? So now that he has summoned the clones, then we can let go of Cyrene's ultimate and we're just gonna slam in our own personal DPS. Look at this. Absolutely 1.01 million, right? So you can see the damage on Cyrene once you get the vertical investments for example Evernight is gonna be absolutely insane. Ika going for the 1.25, instantly getting down to phase 2. So we are gonna be down to our last 3 actions, which is Cyrene, Evernight, and Hyacinth. If we are able to get a DDD, I think we might be able to squeeze out one more. So let's just see where it goes because I also honestly can't really remember exactly how the rotation is gonna be going. So we first activate our Hyacinth ultimate, gets a 1.2 million. Pretty sure we're gonna be able to get the kill on all of these goons over here. Activate our skill, gets us the Tribi ultimate. I think Tribi ultimate should be able to get rid of the entire wave. Alright, so we kill 2, and now because I know for that my Cyrene ultimate actually deals a lot of damage, we're just gonna get rid of them with Evernight here, gets into our ultimate stage. So you can see my Evernight is no longer getting action, right? She's gonna be at 51 action value again, so there's no way we're gonna pull up our Evernight into this wave, and we're gonna purely rely on the amount of stacks we're getting from the Jellyfish, Hyacinth, and Cyrene to get us the one final Jellyfish to get go of free, which I think was a super satisfying. So we're gonna be at a 10 stacks, gets us a Hyacinth skill, 14 stacks, 15 stacks, and then one more ultimate from Cyrene, slams this back in, one basic into an ultimate, and then this is gonna give us one last hit, giving us the final set required for Memorial to hit 16 out of 16, pulling up our Jellyfish. And then at this point, I was thinking, okay, if I get a Jellyfish, it will be very cinema. But since Cyrene is just going to be dealing 638 true damage by herself, and she kind of just stole the kill, it was kind of redundant, even though I played this, I think it was exceptionally well. So that is going to be our Evernight Zero Cycle E1 S1 main DPS Evernight. The build for Tribi, Hyacinth, and Cyrene is going to be the exact same that we used for Castorice. Didn't change at all whatsoever, so these are going to be the builds. Alright, then this is going to be our E1 S1 Evernight. And there's going to be a Hyacinth. One thing I want to point out that for the Evernight build is that you can see we actually went for a slower speed and a higher HP alongside with the energy regeneration roll. This was done with an energy regeneration roll because I really want to try to get an ultimate for the very first wave too. Unfortunately, I didn't even get in the first wave, so it kind of just did absolutely nothing. So it is what it is. But other than that, that is going to be our zero cycle done running the Evernight main DPS. And now moving on to the next DPS. Alright, this DPS is gonna feature Mydei with pretty much the exact same team, except we change out our Cypher, we change out our secondary slot into Ceridra. So this will be our first Ceridra showcase. Now I do believe that this particular Mydei Zero Cycle is gonna be done with the E1 Mydei. I don't remember if I got myself the E1 Ceridra, but essentially that's gonna be that. So we're gonna take a look at how this is gonna be going. Now a very important thing, first of all, why am I even using Ceridra with Mydei? Now if you can recall back in my very first early access guide for Cyrene, you can actually interact with Mydei duplicating a double God Slayer running Ceridra, right? So as long as you get your 150 charge, which is your natural God Slayer, or if you give Mydei a free God Slayer running Cyrene, he can actually just duplicate both at the same time if you're gonna be at 6 out of 6 charge. So this synergy allows fast for like some absolutely insane Mydei damage, especially if you're going to be running a sustainers run where you don't even need Hyacinth anymore, because Mydei, frankly speaking, he's going to be getting a taunt, he's going to die anyways, and the rest of the team is not going to be facing as big of a survival issue because your Tribi and Cyrene, they're both very high HP. As long as you keep your Ceridra all the way a slow one away from the rest of the team, you shouldn't be facing that big of a problem over here. So we're going for this, cast our enhanced state, gets us the ultimate, she's going to get hit over here. Now, no, right? So this is already going to be a 6 out of 6. Now, what you want to do is actually to time your ultimate 6 out of 6 stacks into close to 150 as possible, right? So my Tribi is going to go for the hit over here, getting us the additional energy before we proc our war armor, gets us the stack. Ceridra is going to go in, and then at this point over here, we activate our ultimate, gets us a heal. And after we take a hit from the Ascended, I know for a fact this is definitely going to be 150, which means we are going to be getting our duplicated God Slayer, right? So this is exactly how you do the duplicated God Slayer trick with Ceridra. Gets us a hit, 157, so you can see we get 2 God Slayers for free 99, right? So this is 2 God Slayers for free because we were able to utilize this, getting us a clear very easily. In fact, we could have waited out for one more action here, but we didn't get it. We got the zero cycle, so it is what it is. So you have to kind of make use of this just from a zero cycle perspective to duplicate your Mydei God Slayer with Ceridra, timing this at the right time. Cyrene over here is going to be very nice for us because what she essentially does is to activate a God Slayer on command. The moment you activate Cyrene's ultimate, you are going to be able to instantly cast God Slayer, and if you already have a 6 out of 6 on Ceridra, you are able to get a duplicate instantly. So you don't have to time it with your own ultimate or the enemy RNG anymore. So it's going to be very easy for us, right? So Ceridra, sorry, I keep mixing, okay, they're all cast, you see, bear with me, right? It's kind of like 3M over here. So Cyrene is going to come in. We are going to die out of Mydei, which is going to be completely fine because he basically has like 3 lives, so it's a-okay. Goes for the basic, Tribi activate the ultimate. We're going to let go of all of our ultimate first, then let go of our Cyrene ultimate. So you can see, even though we got our ultimate late, it doesn't matter, right? It literally does not matter because the amount of utility you're getting from a full team-wide ultimate recharge is absolutely insane from your E0 Cyrene, right? So we're gonna be getting this. First of all, always buff your Ceridra because you minus the stacks required, and you get a little bit more crit damage, very nice. Our charge is gonna be lower by 1, and then afterwards, cast your Ceridra ultimate, cast your Mydei ultimate. So you can see we're already at 7 out of 6. At this point, because of the interactions between Mydei and Ceridra, where Ceridra can duplicate your Mydei God Slayer, you activate your Cyrene ultimate right now, so that you can get a free God Slayer, right? So this is how you get a free God Slayer without utilizing the enemy. So we give ourselves the Cyrene out into Mydei right here. Gives us Mydei, and now you can see Cyrene is gonna duplicate this God Slayer for 399, right? So this is gonna be 1 God Slayer, 2 God Slayer. Okay, we let go of our burst first. 200k, very nice. So 1 God Slayer, 2.5 million, 2 God Slayer, slams back down, last 3%, and then 1 at that, still got this in, and now we're gonna instantly get into phase 2, activating our tribute ultimate, so the rest of the fight is gonna be pretty much as so this is the tech for our Mydei Zero cycle, where we utilize Cyrene's duplicated God Slayer against the enemy mobs, right? Now keep in mind, this is gonna be done with an E1 Mydei, so if you're not gonna be getting enough damage, it's still gonna be a pretty good interaction if you do want to consider E1 for your own account in the future, right? So we're gonna continuously let go of our own attacks, giving as many stacks to Mydei as possible, getting a little bit over here. Cyrene slams this back down. Now, unfortunately, we didn't hit the 6 out of 6 stacks, but the unfortunate truth is we want to wait, right? You want to wait. You don't want to activate ultimate right here, but we do get hit with the global passive. So in the ideal world, our Cyrene here does not die, right? Ideally, it hit like a 3B or Mydei or whatever else it's gonna be, but we did need to activate our global passive, but I don't want to grind for the RNG. Just know that this is 100% doable if you just want to aim the hits a little bit more. So now we give this stack to Mydei, giving us the 6 out of 6 God Slayer, and now we activate our Cyrene ultimate to get another duplicated God Slayer copy. So this is gonna activate our double God Slayer. Okay, tribute goes in, 147, slams the first one, slams the second one, and then we are gonna have our one more ultimate, activating our 150 stacks over here. So I went for the slow-mo, just for a little bit more dramatic effect, because I think this tuning was like so nice. It was like perfectly on the dot. Last 2% HP, 3 goes for a follow-up, and then we have one last God Slayer at 1%, slamming out Flame Weaver. Now, I don't think this would be possible without E1 Mydei, because the damage variable from E0 to E1 is absolutely insane, but I think it's definitely possible without a E1 Cyrene. I'm not sure if I activated the E1 Cyrene. Let me just take a look over here. So this is going to be our Cyrene build. Okay, so it is with the E1 Cyrene, but you can see just now we actually have quite a decent chunk of HP left, so maybe you could have saved it. You have better relics, because like I mentioned, the relics for this account is honestly just really far from great. So this is gonna be our tribute. You can see our Mydei is gonna be 8.8k HP, low speed. We can make use of the speed from Cyrene as well as God Slayer. Having the free God Slayers from Cyrene doesn't really require Mydei to be fast anymore, right? So having him at low speed, high HP, completely fine. So this Mydei is honestly a pretty okay build, E1 Mydei, and this is gonna be as that same Cyrene over here, getting a little bit more damage. So that's gonna be our Mydei Zero cycle, and now move on to the last 2 Zero cycles on account. Alright, this is gonna be our second last Zero cycle, and frankly speaking, if you want to ask me, this is my favorite Zero cycle I have done in the entire showcase, because I actually figured out a perfect speed tuning with Trailblazer plus Cyrene plus Cyrene alongside Anaxa. I think I tried this for the longest. It was at least like half an hour to even like 45 minutes before I finally got down the speed tuning for this team. It was very nice, but I do keep in mind, this is actually done with an E2 Anaxa, right? This was done with an E2 Anaxa. This is going to be Trailblazer, E0 S1, our Cyrene is always going to be E0, and then Cyrene here is going to be E1 S1 Cyrene, right? So this is going to give us the mem support. We want to essentially utilize mem support from RMC to always give Cyrene extra turns, right? If you do not do this, you are essentially not going to be getting enough stacks to cast your ultimate within the very first wave, which is going to be a big problem for your Anaxa Zero cycle, right? So counting our skill, we're going to let us get hit over here, wait a little bit, cast our ultimate for our Cyrene, get to 6 out of 6. He's gonna activate our dance, activates our Anaxa ultimate here, and then Memman is gonna just go for the basic attack, slams in the book with our ultimate, which means we're gonna be getting our charge from War Armor into RMC. It's a very good amount of energy. Then Cyrene is gonna continuously apply our stats for Anaxa, just to yeah, Cyrene is gonna continue to apply our stats to Anaxa as high as possible. So at this point, we're gonna be taking a little bit of it. It's completely fine, because this will be the last time they're ever gonna touch me. So you can see over here, once this action goes away, you are actually gonna be pushing up way better. Now, a funny interaction, I'm not sure if this was intended, is that Trailblazer's technique, it always gets activated if you're going to be running a Cyrene technique at the same time, even though you didn't activate Trailblazer technique. So just something that I found was quite interesting. So at this point, we're going to go for our skill. We have 0 skill points, completely fine. Goes for the basic into a duplicate. Mimi is going to come in for the punch. Okay, this is all good. Yep, getting a lot of stacks. Mimi comes in for the punch. So at this point, I essentially was waiting to get a 100% Mimi on this particular action, because of a brand new update for RMC, you actually get the enhanced attack, which is pretty much the amount of charge you're getting from a skill, right? For 399, as well as doing damage. So at this point, we go in for the ultimate just for a little bit more charge. And with one last enhanced basic out of cast ultimate, we get on the spot 100%. So this was perfect. We get in one more skill, then we activate our Cyrene ultimate for the perfect amount of action value over here. It could not have gone any better. So now we activate our ultimate, gets all of the buffs. So the buff is going to be the exact same. We first buff Cyrene, then we're going to be buffing our Anaxa. Now for this particular point, very important, right? Wait, hold up. Extremely important over here. So we activate our Anaxa ultimate in case we get the excess energy. Okay, this point. Ideally, you do not activate your Anaxa ultimate there, because what essentially happened here is after I cast my Cyrene out, it pulls up Anaxa with 100% action value advance. But what happened was that Cyrene herself, she dealt way too much damage. So I believe that after we pulled up Anaxa, her own O2, whatever it's going to be, activated. So this hit actually killed the Ascendant one, which is very bad. So what essentially happened is that we completely wasted our Anaxa's extra turn. So this was like an insane amount of damage that we've like, it's completely gone. And the worst part is, because we didn't manage to get our action, we cannot utilize the bounce into Flame Weaver immediately going for the next wave. So this was like super bad. If I had to reset, I would have just reset it over here, because I essentially wasted an entire next action. I should have just not used my ultimate there and then. Use my ultimate only after I can guarantee the bullets bounce into Flame Weaver, right? So this was a huge misplay, but you can see towards the end, it still didn't matter because you got a 0-cycle animator. But I just want to say, very big mistake. Do not do that. So you can see, after we get an extra turn, Anaxa goes all the way back to 70 action value again, right? So we essentially almost like quote-unquote wasted half of Cyrene's ultimate value. Granted, you still get a +3 skill charge, right? You still get the additional energy, but it was definitely not going to be worth it because you lost a lot of action value, right? So now Cyrene's going to cast her own ultimate, goes in for the basic because we're going to be running a little bit low on skill points, right? Then Cyrene is just going to continue our skill, our basic. Then RMC, I know for a fact that we definitely get enough charge with Anaxa because we're 84%. Once you go to a basic, it's going to be 98. On Anaxa's turn, we're going to be going for the double, right? So we can instantly push back the perfect speed tuning to get Anaxa right back into our Mimi again for the bonus turn 100% uptime on man support. So we want to activate our Anaxa ultimate first so they don't waste the energy. If we can see, Flame Weaver is already down to 35% HP before he even moved, right? So one more skill gets a redraw, and we are already at 21% before bro even moved a single hit, right? Now this was also another misplay. So what could have happened is I didn't expect myself to kill him or rather get this stack over here, right? You should have paid more attention over here, because what essentially happened, I didn't get a stack, I only got a stacks right here. So you should have activated your ultimate immediately so that you can pull up Anaxa to have the highest amount of action value gain. But unfortunately, your streamer didn't activate it immediately. So now if I were to activate my ultimate, I actually lost roughly 24 action value, which was definitely going to be a misplay on my part. But at this point, it was like super wasteful. I was just going to pull up Anaxa anyways because like, you know, if I lose the action value here, it's going to be way too much. And we are going to be getting the Quadra skill bounce because we are going to be at 6 out of 6. So I pull up Anaxa right here. And because I know for a fact this is going to definitely kill him into the next phase, at least the bounces can implant the weaknesses instantly, right? So this is our first bounce, 821,000 with the E2 Anaxa. And then we're going to get 4 more bounces, 78, 64. He's going to get 1 more hit. We're going to save this a little bit. And then now we're going to be able to get our ultimate right here, which marks all of his goons with the weaknesses. And then we're going to continuously do our damage right here, right? So you can see the misplay over here is that if I actually did not misplay, I would have gotten my Anaxa in this action. But because I wasted the 24 action value, I believe because of that reason, I was not able to squeeze this additional action over here. But you can see, I think it didn't matter because we're still able to get a clear. I'm not really exactly sure I remember how I did it, but this definitely had a lot more room to improve. So this is going to be our skill coming. Oh, okay. So we basically got ourselves the Mimi ultimate, I believe. Yeah. So we're going to be getting our skill over here. Yeah, I was counting like the stacks, but I do believe we get enough for the RMC, right? So we go in for the... All right. My Ceredra was on DDD. Yeah. Okay. Now I remember. Yeah. Okay. My Ceredra was E1 S0 with dance. Okay, I literally completely forgot that bro was on dance. Yeah. Okay, she was on dance, right? So how do we cast this? We get the action value for RMC, and okay, then this is gonna be a definitive clear. So moral of the story, dance, right? So that's gonna be E1 S0 Ceredra gets in 1 more hit with Cyrene. This is gonna pop. We're definitely gonna be getting our ultimate here. So once we let go of our Anaxa, we are going to be able to get 2 more extra turns. So first of all, we get a Mimi. Second of all, we get the Cyrene over here. So we get our Cyrene first. Pull ourselves back up. Okay, I don't even think we need it. Okay, we dealt so much damage. You can see over here, we literally wasted or rather not wasted, we saved up 2 entire bursts for Cyrene's turn, as well as RMC's extra turn. So this speed tuning was pretty much perfect. I think this, if I grant this a little bit more running E1 Anaxa, I think it would have definitely been doable because we were missing so much damage that we are dealing with about E2 Anaxa, right? So with that, we have pretty much come to the end of our Anaxa Zero Cycle. I think that was like, personally, that was the most satisfying Zero Cycle because when I figured out the speed tuning, it was like, oh my god, it was so satisfying, right? So this is gonna be our E2 S1 Anaxa running the 116 speed. Not fully maxed out on the crit rate, so do take that into consideration as well. You're not going to be running Sunday. This is going to be our Cyrene, and then this is going to be the power of DDD with 173 Cerija, right? So that is pretty much it for our Anaxa Zero Cycle. Oh, one more thing before I go, almost like before I go. Our Cerija, you can notice, is at a very high 173 speed. This is intentional because you do want to try to make this outspeed your Cyrene, right? So this Cyrene is 189, but because we have built-in DDD, we actually pull up our Cyrene to be effective 200 speed anyways, because we need 185 speed, right? So after we factoring Ceridra's personal action value advance, 173 is the amount required to let her take one more action before Cyrene X. Right, so we just take one more little bit of action, nothing too crazy, but just know that you wanna speed tune this kind of stuff, just take it into consideration, right? Also, that's pretty much it. Alright, with that, we're gonna come to our final Zero Cycle. I saved the best for last. This time featuring Kevin Castorce, running the exact same team as our E2 Anaxa. So this is going to be Phainon, Cerija, Trailblaze, and Cyrene. The difference is, I believe my Cerija here was only at E0, but my Phainon here is going to be at an E2 S1. So if you want to think about it, it's technically one less cost, because we did not even activate our E1 Cerija here. So the rotation here, I think this is a very good example to kind of show you guys how do you play a sustainers Phainon run running RMC Cerija in the same team. Now, super important, at this point of the video, I just want to say, if you're thinking about vertical investment, should you pull E2 Cyrene to give yourself the additional charge, or should you pull E2 Phainon? Me personally, if you're going to be a Phainon main, I would always pull for E2 Phainon. E2 Phainon's damage increase, it is absolutely otherworldly. E2 Cyrene, it does not even compare, right? E2 Phainon is the highest damage increase for this DPS. So if you want to pull vertical investments to improve your Phainon team, getting E2 Phainon is your #1 priority, only second to Cerija, right? So a very important thing just for all the Phainon mains out there. But this is going to be how we're going to be doing our Zero Cycle. So the rotation for this is a little bit similar to our Anaxa rotation, where we're going to be making use our RMC to pull up Cyrene to get our additional action, right? So one important thing here is you kind of have to gamble on the RNG where the Ascendant one does not hit your Cerija, right? You kind of have to hit somebody that is not going to be there because you want to maintain this to be at 99%. To get the perfect swap back after our Cyrene skill, then we can instantly pull back out with Mimi again. If this failed, you are not going to be getting the full value from Cyrene, which means you cannot get enough stacks for Phainon to activate his own ultimate. So that was the RNG that you had to grind. After this RNG, everything else is just pretty much super straightforward, right? So we pull out Cyrene again, gets us the double Mimi stack, so we're going to be at 20 stacks over here. Activate our ultimate, get a little bit more of the enhanced stacks, bringing war armor, right? Getting the additional energy from Mimi. 60% charge. Now Cyrene is just gonna continuously use her skill on Phainon to make sure that we still get a speed buff. Phainon is just gonna spam base there, right? Phainon does not need to activate his skill at all, right? The only thing Phainon does before he gets ultimate is with a skill point generator, straight up, right? So this is gonna be what we're gonna be doing. Mimi, you can see over here, we are dangerously low, but at this point, we've already won, right? So once Cyrene gets us this turn, we won, right? So now we activate our Cyrene ultimate. We're gonna give the buff into Cerija as well as Phainon. And we are definitely going to be able to clear these two mobs from a single enhanced skill. So that's going to be there, right? So we gave it to Phainon, give it to Cerija. All that doesn't really matter that much. Now we're giving it to Cerija. So at this point, you can see over here, if you want, you really, okay, super important. You wanted to wait until you let Mimi get the 100% action value advance. So I was thinking to myself, okay, just in case this does not hit 100%, I was going to activate Mimi skill. Because remember, your first Mimi pull-up was on Cyrene, not on Phainon. So you really need this to be on Phainon again to make sure Phainon still get a true damage buff, right? So our Cyrene goes in, Mimi pulls up Phainon over here, and at this point, that's where you can go all in, right? So whether or not you use the ultimate here, if frankly speaking, doesn't matter. Honestly, if you want to save it or not save it, doesn't change anything, because your ultimate here, or rather your enhanced skill, it will definitely one-shot, and your entire team over here, you can just say bye-bye, because they're never going to reappear ever again, because Phainon is going to be in his ultimate state for the entire time. So get this ultimate, just do as much damage as possible. Then we activate into Castorce mode, slams back down, our enhanced meter here against 2 target is 100% gonna kill. So the first meter hits 1.5 million. Second meteor, 1.4 million, definitely gonna kill. So our E2 Phainon here is not gonna be useful. We do get a little bit more of a speed buff from this very first hit, but for your Flame Weaver side, this was a must. If you do not have E2 Phainon, I genuinely don't think you can actually clear this, because the amount of value from the stacks you're getting from this charge, it is way too high, right? So you really need that Phainon to actually get an E2 to activate this over here. So first basic, 4 out of 4, gets us the E2 Phainon proc. Then we get in for another basic. Now, you do not want to activate Taunt with Phainon against Flame Weaver, because you can't consecutively taunt Flame Weaver, right? You need to actually kill his clones, and if you let him summon his clones, it is a massive DPS loss of Phainon, because the bullets, the meter is gonna split everywhere, right? So you want to keep this as single target for as long as possible. So now we're gonna be, as you can see over here, 2 out of 4, 4 out of 4, and at this particular point, we slam in our meters at 62% HP. Gets the first break for 957k, because we do have 40% damage reduction, so it's gonna be a lot lower. The second hit at 8%, gets the additional turn, goes in for the hit, last 3%, goes in, 4 out of 4, and then we're gonna instantly transform him to phase 2. Now, for this particular point, you can't change anything, right? You can't do anything, you're just gonna be a 4 out of 4, he's gonna summon the clones, but because we do get ourselves the E2, we're able to essentially, even after we transform and get the extra turn, we can still squeeze out one more action for fun. In fact, 2 more action, I believe, because of the power of Cyrene, right? So this activates the reservation, but you can see because of Cabin Castellana's effect with Cyrene at E0, you still gain the additional action from an E2 as well as the additional action that we've gotten from the cycle ending, right? So we slam in one last meter, 6 out of 4. This point is gonna be completely overkill. So boom, back down, and that is gonna be our 0 cycle with the E2 Phainon running E0 Cyrene, right? So that is gonna be that. So this is gonna be built over here, E2 S1 Phainon. And then this is gonna be our E0 S1 Cervidra, and then RMC is gonna be running the E6, we're running the Mimi Light Cone, so we want to roll this cost a little bit. And also this build for RMC is like, it doesn't matter, right? Because they're never gonna appear anyways, so it literally just does not matter, so whatever it's gonna be. And then Cyrene is gonna be running the E0 S1 Cyrene, right? So with that, before I end off this video, I'm pretty sure you guys will be like, oh my god, E2 Phainon. Even though we did get quite a couple of eidolons for like your Anaxa, for Mydei, all that kind of stuff, I want to showcase Phainon 0 cycle one more time. And this is the only 0 cycle we actually did against the next MOC 12 Firefly set. Okay, this is our actual final 0 cycle for our entire showcase. This is our 7th 0 cycle. Technically 6 0 cycles, but this is gonna be our 7th one with the same unit. Exact same team with E2 S1 Phainon. Everything else here was completely untouched, didn't change whatsoever. So the concept of you playing this Phainon team is also gonna be the exact same as the previous MOC. You want to essentially try to store out your energy charge. Okay, yeah, but unfortunately, because you're gonna be getting hit over here, this 100% is not able to time up with Cyrene, so she lost a little bit of additional value, but honestly, there's nothing you can do, right? So you can just wrap it up, give this to Cyrene, 30 action value is still 30 action value, and you can see that we are still gonna be having enough stacks towards the end, because RMC does generate a decent amount of stacks for Cyrene by herself over here, right? So Cervidra comes in, we're gonna be at 19, get a couple of hits from this, the Ascendant, it's all good. Alright, this part is where you kind of need to grind the RNG a little bit, because if he actually hits your RMC or like your Cervidra and they die, then it's kind of just reset, right? So it doesn't really matter. Go to reset, because at this point, they are pretty much not going to move, because we do have RMC's technique up in field, so you are taking 0 damage, right? So everything else is very straightforward. We summon the mobs, but it is going to be okay. Now, if he aims your RMC here, you kind of have to reset, right? Other than that, you just let Mimi take one more action. So he aims RMC. Ideally, that does not happen, right? Ideally, let it be anyone else but RMC. But apparently, you want to aim the 1 in 4. Actually, not even, it's like 1 in 5. So if this happens and you do not have global passive, then just go for the reset. Other than that, at this point, it doesn't matter. Go for the basic. Mimi guys in the one last hit. 24 on the dot. Activate our Cyrene ultimate. Then we're gonna do everything else as is, right? So everything else is gonna be the exact same. Cast our ultimate for Cervidra, then cast our ultimate for Phainon, right? So we're gonna cast our ultimate for Phainon. 99%, 100%, let Mimi pull up our Phainon over here. Alright, this is gonna go for the bomb up. Decent amount of damage at 109k. Mimi pulls up Phainon. And now you can just let go of everything, right? So Cervidra ultimate, RMC ultimate, then Phainon activate the ultimate. Everybody goes, right? Slams in. Boom skis. Phainon activates the Castellana. And then we're just gonna let go of our enhanced skill, right? So this is gonna be our enhanced skill. Boom, 1. and boom 2. Now you can see over here, because we do have the E2 Phainon, we get access to one more of the hit, which is gonna be very, very important, right? So without the E2 Phainon, I would say this would have not cleared. So for this particular point, first of all, if you don't have E2 Phainon, this is not possible. But generally speaking, if you have enough damage from a basic, that's fine. But because I know I probably don't have enough damage, I'm actually going to be going for the taunt here, because the Cyclonic Swarm Mortar, he already has a bleed, right? You can see he has a bleed. So by getting the taunt to pull out this mob, he will take more bleed damage, which is going to help a lot, because bleed is percentage max HP, right? So you can see from the taunt over here, he's going to be taking almost 40,000 additional bleed damage, which was like really substantial, especially the true damage multiplier as well. So he's going to take even more, because he's going to hatch an egg, right? So you can take even more damage, and now from this counter, we are definitely killing, right? Boomski's 500k gets us the kill, right? So for that particular situation, you really want to use the counter in case you didn't deal enough damage from the rotation, right? So now we're going to go in, get us the additional speed boost, and you can see our transformation is going to be within wave right here, right? So now we're going to slam in our ultimate. Very, very straightforward. So at this point, it's going to be super straightforward. Playing this as is. Now, very important part here, you want to spam your taunts against Sam as frequently as possible. So honestly, at that point, I would have actually just went for the taunt instead. So come here, this is gonna do one taunt, and we're gonna do another taunt, because you wanted to enter into combustion mode, because during combustion mode, he's gonna be taking more damage. You can see from 81% to 70%, and he's gonna be losing HP by himself, right? So you want to always spam taunt against Sam for Phainon. Then you can activate your E2 Phainon, slam all your meteors, bang, and can even deal the half more damage in the physical weakness. So very, very nice. Slams it up in there, right? Gets us the break over here. Refunds ourselves a little bit more, right? That's good. And then from this point onwards, you want to do the exact same thing. Taunt Sam once, then taunt Sam again. So you instantly let him bring back into the combustion mode, right? So you can see over here, our tuning is perfect, right? 4 out of 4 stacks into 5 out of 6 Cervidra. So we're going to taunt one more time. Gets us a Cervidra duplicate. He's going to enter into combustion mode. Lose a little bit more HP. We're going to counter. And then after our form ends, we're not going to end, right? Because of Cyrene. Gets us the additional turn over here, then we slam down on enhanced skill, right? So this is where we slam down on enhanced skill, getting us the 0 cycle against this. I think this time it's like a billion HP or something. It's absolutely absurd. So that is gonna be that for our E2 S1 Phainon 0 cycling against the next MOC12 Just a little bit more of a bonus. I honestly think, I'm not too sure if my Castorice team could have gotten the 0 cycle, because he was like super beefy. I think in terms of absolute raw damage, I don't think anybody actually wins E2 Phainon unless we're talking about an equal amount of vertical investment. So with that, we have finally come to the end of my Hexa. I don't know what's the word for 7 different 0 cycles with Cyrene, marking the end to my final chapter in the Cyrene early access journey. If you guys have been watching all of our past guys in the past couple of days, huge shout out to my editor as well as myself. You can see my choice that, kind of code from making this happen. Other than that, I'm really looking forward to see how Cyrene is going to be talking about in the future, when the live story is going to come out. Let me know what guys in the comments below. I'll be cooking a little bit more for the Unlock Me arbitration, everything else in currency wars. So that's going to be that, right? We're over the day. I'm done. Join Discord, use code for 10% on game subs. All the best of luck. See you guys next time. Okay.